Kang Junho pushed his cleaning cart down the empty corridor of orbital station Velshara. His shift started at midnight, when the important aliens were sleeping and the hallways were quiet. That was how he liked it. Quiet meant no one would bother him. No one would look at him with those eyes that said he was nothing. He was 38 years old and worked as a janitor. Back on Earth, he had a daughter named Hana. She was 7 years old and lived with his mother in Seoul. Junho sent most of his money home every month. The rest went to pay for hologram calls so he could see Hana's face once a week. Those calls were expensive, but they were the only thing that kept him going. His wife Sora had died 3 years ago in a transport accident. After that, Junho needed work, any work. The station paid better than anything on Earth, even if it meant scrubbing floors for aliens who barely noticed he existed. Sometimes he wondered if they could even tell humans apart. To them, he was just another worker in a gray uniform. Tonight was different, though. His supervisor, Corvin, had given him special orders. The Imperial Wing needed deep cleaning. This was the section where the royal family lived. Junho had never been allowed inside before. Only the most trusted workers went there, and humans were never trusted. But one of the regular cleaners had gotten sick, and someone had to do the job. Junho walked through the massive crystal doors. Everything in the Imperial Wing glowed with soft blue light. The walls were made of some kind of living crystal that the Velsharan species grew in their cities. Beautiful, but cold. Everything about this station was cold. He started mopping the floors, working his way down the hall. The crystal reflected his face back at him. He looked tired, old. When had he gotten so old? Then he heard it. Crying. Not just any crying, but the desperate wailing of babies in distress. Junho stopped. He should not investigate. He should mind his business and finish his work. But the crying continued, getting worse. It reminded him of Hana when she was a baby, those nights when she could not sleep and nothing would comfort her. He followed the sound to a sealed door. His cleaning access card should not open it, but when he swiped it, the door slid open anyway. Some kind of maintenance override. Inside was a nursery, and in the nursery were 2 cribs. In each crib was a baby, but not a human baby. These were Velsharan infants. Their skin was made of crystal, just like the adults, but softer. The crystals were supposed to be clear or light blue. These babies were glowing dark red, almost black. Their tiny faces were twisted in pain as they cried. Junho knew a little about Velsharan biology. Everyone who worked on the station had to learn the basics. When Velsharan children got too upset, their crystal skin could crack. It was dangerous. It could kill them. Where were the nursemaids? Where was anyone? The babies kept crying. Their crystal skin was starting to show small fractures, like glass about to shatter. Junho should have called for help. He should have run to find a Velsharan adult. But there was no time. The babies needed someone now. He stepped closer to the cribs. What could he do? He was human. He did not know how to care for alien babies. But he knew babies, alien or not, responded to comfort, to warmth, to sound. Junho thought of Hana. When she was little and could not sleep, he would sing to her. Old songs his grandmother had taught him, songs from Korea that went back hundreds of years. Sora used to laugh and say he had a terrible voice, but Hana never cared. She would calm down and fall asleep in his arms. Without thinking, Junho started to hum. The melody was Half Moon, a song every Korean child knew. His grandmother had sung it to him. He had sung it to Hana. Now he sang it to 2 alien babies who were dying in front of him. The effect was instant. The babies stopped crying. Their crystal skin began to change color, shifting from that dangerous dark red to a soft amber. The cracks in their skin stopped spreading. Then, impossibly, they started to heal. Junho kept singing, his voice soft and steady. The babies' eyes opened. They looked at him with curiosity instead of pain. Their crystals now glowed a peaceful blue. He did not know that in the shadows behind a one-way crystal wall, someone was watching. Empress Livera had come to check on her niece and nephew. The nursemaids had left for just a moment to get fresh supplies. She was about to call them back when she saw the human enter the room. She almost stopped him. Humans were not allowed near the royal children. But then she saw what happened. She saw the babies heal. She saw their crystals change color in ways that should have been impossible. Velsharan hearing was different from human hearing. Their species heard sounds at different frequencies. Human voices should have meant nothing to them, especially human singing. Yet her niece and nephew had responded instantly to this human song. Livera stood frozen, watching. The human was now gently touching the baby's hands, still humming. They were reaching for him, their tiny crystal fingers wrapping around his human ones. He was smiling, tears running down his face. "What are you?" she whispered. Junho finished his song. The babies were sleeping now, peaceful and safe. He carefully stepped back, suddenly remembering where he was. He had just touched the royal children. He could be executed for this. He needed to leave quickly. He grabbed his cleaning cart and hurried out of the room. His hands were shaking. What had he done? Why had he taken such a risk? But he knew why. Because they were babies, and they were hurting, and he could not stand by and do nothing. Junho returned to the regular corridors and continued his cleaning. He tried to forget what had happened. He needed this job. He needed to support Hana. In the Imperial Wing, Empress Livera called for her chief scientist. She needed answers. She needed to understand what she had just witnessed. And in his small quarters, Junho sat on his bed and opened his communication device. He had one message waiting. It was from Hana, a video she had recorded earlier. "Hi, Appa," her little voice said. "I miss you. Grandma says you are working hard. Can you sing me Half Moon tonight, please?" Junho smiled through his tears. "Always, my sweet girl," he said to the recording. Always. He did not know that his simple act of kindness had just changed everything. He did not know that the most powerful woman in the galaxy was now searching for answers about him. He did not know that his voice carried something scientists thought was extinct in the universe. He was just a janitor who missed his daughter and had helped two babies because it was the right thing to do. But sometimes, that is all it takes to change the stars. Empress Livera stood in her private laboratory, watching the biological data scroll across the holographic display. Her chief scientist, Ravan, looked confused and excited at the same time. This was not a combination she saw often from him. "The results are impossible," Ravan said, moving his crystalline hands through the data. "But they are also undeniable. When the human vocalized, the twins' stress hormones dropped to 0 within 3 seconds. Their crystal fractures healed at a rate we have never observed outside of medical intervention." "Explain it to me simply," Livera said. She was tired and wanted answers, not scientific jargon. Riven pulled up a sound wave analysis. "Our species hears at frequencies between 800 and 6,000 hertz. Human speech and singing typically falls between 85 and 255 hertz. We should not even register their voices as meaningful. Yet somehow, this human produced a harmonic resonance that crossed that barrier." "Show me," the Empress said. Riven played the recording of Junho singing. The laboratory filled with the sound of his voice, that simple human melody. Livera felt something strange. A warmth in her chest, a feeling she could not name. It had been centuries since her species had words for feelings like this. "There," Riven pointed at a specific wavelength in the analysis. "This frequency, 432 hertz, with harmonic overtones at specific intervals. Our ancient texts mention something called the compassion resonance, a wavelength that triggers deep emotional bonding across species barriers. We thought it was mythology." "What created this frequency?" Livera asked. "The Shanari," Rivan said quietly. the ancient species that brought the first peace, thousands of years before our recorded history. They could produce this resonance naturally. When they went extinct, the galaxy descended into endless war. We have been fighting ever since. Lyvera stared at the recording. A human janitor, singing to babies because they were crying. He had no idea what he was doing. No idea what he carried inside him. "Are all humans capable of this?" she asked. "I do not know," Rivan admitted. "We need more data." "No," Lyvera said firmly. "We need to be careful. If the wrong people discover this, humans will become targets. Or weapons." She dismissed Riven and sat alone in her laboratory. The weight of this knowledge pressed down on her. The Velsharan Empire was on the edge of war with the Drakzul coalition. Decades of failed peace talks. Millions of lives at stake. And now this human, this invisible worker, might hold the key to ending it all. But at what cost? Meanwhile, Junho returned to his normal routine. He woke up in his tiny quarters at 11 p.m., ate instant noodles for dinner, and prepared for his midnight shift. He tried not to think about what had happened in the Imperial Wing. He had broken so many rules, but the babies were safe. That was what mattered. His supervisor Corvin was waiting for him at the supply closet. Corvin was a Velsharan, but not like the beautiful nobles Junho sometimes saw walking the upper levels. Corvin's crystals were dull and cracked from age and hard work. He seemed to hate everything, but especially humans. "You took too long in the Imperial Wing last night," Corvin said. "What were you doing?" "Just cleaning," Junho said, keeping his eyes down. "There was a lot to cover." "Humans are slow," Corvin muttered. "I told them not to hire your kind, but you work cheap." He shoved a data pad at Junho. "New assignment tonight. High Diplomatic Chamber. Important meeting. You stay quiet and invisible. Understand?" "Yes, sir," Junho said. He pushed his cart to the Diplomatic Chamber. These meetings were usually boring. Aliens argued about trade agreements and territory disputes in languages Junho did not understand. He would clean the edges of the room while they talked, and no one would notice him. But tonight felt different. The tension in the room was thick. Junho could feel it even before he understood what was happening. There were Velsharan delegates on one side of the chamber and Drakzul representatives on the other. Junho had never seen a Drakzul up close before. They were massive, with armored skin and multiple eyes. They looked like they were built for war, probably because they were. The meeting started civil but quickly turned hostile. The Drakzul wanted mining rights to a system the Velsharan claimed as sacred. Voices rose, threats were made. One Drakzul ambassador stood up, his size making the Velsharan diplomats look small and fragile. "Your empire is weak," the Drakzul growled. "This war will end with your surrender or your extinction." Junho felt his heart racing. He pressed himself against the wall, trying to be smaller, more invisible. He hated conflict. It reminded him too much of the days after Sora died, when everything felt like it was falling apart. Without thinking, he started humming. It was a nervous habit from childhood. When things got scary, he would hum to calm himself. The song was Arirang, another old Korean folk song his grandmother had taught him. He barely realized he was doing it. The room went silent. Every head turned toward him. Junho froze, realizing what he had done. He had made noise during a diplomatic meeting. He would be fired, deported. He would never see Hana again. But the delegates were not angry. They looked confused. The Drakzul ambassador sat down slowly, as if his legs would not hold him. A Velsharan diplomat touched her chest, her crystals flickering with colors Junho had never seen before. What was that?" one of them whispered. Junho did not answer. He grabbed his cart and left as quickly as he could without running. Behind him, the delegates sat in stunned silence, each one experiencing something they had thought their species could not feel. Empathy, understanding, peace. In her private chambers, Empress Livera received the report within minutes. The incident in the diplomatic chamber had been recorded. She watched the footage 3 times. The human had not even meant to do it. He was frightened and humming to himself, and he had accidentally stopped a confrontation that could have started a war. This was more powerful than she had imagined, and more dangerous. She sent an encrypted message to her intelligence network. Find out everything about this human, his history, his family, his life. But do it quietly. No one could know she was interested in a janitor. The responses came back within hours. Kang Junho, widower, father to a 7-year-old daughter on Earth, worked double shifts, sent money home, no criminal record, no political connections. He was nobody, exactly the kind of person everyone overlooked. Perfect. But Livera was not the only one who had noticed. Corvin had been in the security office when the reports came through about the diplomatic chamber incident. He had seen the recordings. He had seen the biological data showing the compassion resonance, and Corvin was deeply in debt to some very bad people. People who paid well for information. People who worked for the Drakzul. That night, Corvin sent an encrypted message to his contacts. He did not understand everything he had seen, but he understood value. This human was valuable, and Corvin needed money more than he needed a conscience. Junho finished his shift and went to the transit level. It was time for his weekly call with Hana. He sat in one of the cheap communication booths and activated the hologram. His daughter's face appeared, smiling and excited. "Appa! Appa! Guess what I did in school today?" Junho smiled, feeling the weight of the night lift from his shoulders. This was what mattered. Not empires or peace talks or mysterious frequencies. Just this. His daughter's voice. Her happiness. "Tell me everything," he said. They talked for 30 minutes. At the end, like always, Hana asked him to sing Half Moon. He sang it softly, watching her eyes close as she curled up with her grandmother in their small apartment on Earth. "I love you, Appa," she said. "I love you too, sweet girl. More than all the stars." The hologram faded. Junho sat in the booth for a moment, feeling alone again. Then he stood up and headed back to his quarters. He did not see the 3 Drakzul soldiers watching him from the shadows. He did not know that Corvin had sold his location. He did not know that his life was about to change in ways he could never imagine. He was just a tired father walking home after a long shift, thinking about his daughter and counting the days until he could hold her again. The Drakzul soldiers moved forward silently. They had their orders: capture the human, deliver him to the research facility. Do not damage the vocal cords. Junho never saw them coming. Junho woke up with a terrible headache. His vision was blurry and his mouth tasted like metal. He tried to move his hands but could not. They were strapped to a table. So were his legs. Panic hit him like ice water. Where was he? What happened? He blinked until his vision cleared. He was in some kind of laboratory. The walls were dark metal. Strange equipment surrounded him, and standing over him was a creature from his nightmares. A Drakzul, bigger than any he had seen before, with multiple eyes that stared at him without blinking. "The human is awake," the Drakzul said in heavily accented Common. "Good. We can begin." "Where am I?" Junho asked, his voice shaking. "What do you want?" "I am Throknar, lead scientist of the Drakzul Research Division. You are in our facility on Moonbase Tarak 7, and what I want is simple. You will produce the frequency." "What frequency? I don't understand." "Please, I have a daughter. I need to get back to work or I'll lose my job. Please." Throknar moved closer. "Do not play ignorant. We know what you are capable of, the compassion resonance. You will teach us how to produce it, how to control it, how to weaponize it." Terror flooded through Junho. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a janitor. I clean floors. That's all." One of Throknar's assistants played a recording. It was Junho in the diplomatic chamber, humming Arirang. The biological data scrolled beside it, showing the effects on every being in the room. "You did this," Throcknar said, "whether you understand it or not. Your species carries something our scientists thought was extinct, a frequency that can override biological imperatives. That can make warriors feel peace. That can end wars or start them." "I was just nervous," Junho said. "I hum when I'm scared. It's just a song my grandmother taught me." "Then you will sing again. Now." Junho stared at the alien. "No." Throcknar's multiple eyes narrowed. "You refuse?" "I don't perform for people. Those songs are mine. They're for my daughter, for the people I love, not for you." The scientist made a gesture. Pain exploded through Junho's body. Some kind of electric shock from the table. He screamed, his back arching against the restraints. "Sing," Throcknar said calmly. When Junho could breathe again, he said, "No." More pain. Longer this time. Junho's vision went white. When it stopped, he was sobbing, shaking. But he did not sing. "Interesting," Throcknar said. "Your tolerance for pain is actually higher than expected for a human. We will try a different approach." He pulled up a hologram. It showed Earth, then it zoomed in to Seoul, to a specific apartment building, to a specific window. Inside, Junho could see his mother and Hana. They were eating dinner, laughing about something, safe and happy and completely unaware. "We can have them here in 3 days," Throcknar said. "Would you sing to protect them? Or will you be stubborn and let them suffer too?" Junho felt something break inside him. Not his will. Something else. Something deeper. He thought of Sora. She had been so brave when she was dying. She had held his hand and told him to keep singing. To keep living. To keep being kind even when the universe was cruel. "I'll sing," he whispered. But when he opened his mouth, what came out was different. He sang Half Moon, but it was twisted with fear and desperation. The equipment registered the frequency, but it was wrong, unstable, painful to hear. Throcknar stopped him. "That is not it. The data shows distress, not peace." "I told you," Junho said, his voice hoarse. "You can't force it. The songs work because of why I sing them, because I care, because I love. You can torture me all you want, but you'll never make me feel what you want me to feel." "Emotions are simply chemical reactions," Throcknar said. "We will find the right stimulus." But even as he said it, he sounded uncertain. The concept confused him. His species did not understand voluntary emotion. Everything was biology, instinct, chemistry. The idea that humans chose to feel things, that emotions were connected to meaning and relationships, was foreign to him. While Junho suffered in the Dragzul facility, Empress Livera was tearing her palace apart with fury. The human was gone, taken, and she knew exactly who was responsible. "Find him," she ordered her head of security, Commander Taeyon. "I don't care what it costs. Find him now." "The Dragzul have hidden their tracks well," Taeyon said. "But we are following leads. We will locate him, Empress." "Why do you care so much about one human?" asked Council Member Vorin, one of her advisors. "There are billions of them on Earth. If this one is lost, find another." Livera turned on him with rage in her crystalline eyes. "Because he is not a tool. He is a person, a father. Someone who showed kindness without being asked. And because if we let the Dragzul take him, they will break him. They will try to weaponize what makes humans special, and then we will have lost something precious." Within hours, her intelligence network traced the abduction to Moon Base Tarak 7. It was a suicide mission to go there. The base was heavily fortified and deep in Dragzul territory, but Livera did not hesitate. "Prepare my ship," she said. "I'm going personally." "Empress, this is madness," Vorin protested. "If you are captured, the Empire falls. If I don't go, then what kind of Empress am I? she said. "What kind of person? That human risked everything to help two babies who were not even his species. I can do no less." She took only a small team, Commander Taeyon and 5 elite soldiers. They would have to be quick and quiet. No official military action, no war declarations, just a rescue. In the facility, Junho lost track of time. It might have been days or weeks. Throcknar tried everything. Drugs that were supposed to make him happy, simulations of his daughter calling for help, recordings of Sora's voice. But every time Junho tried to sing, it came out wrong, broken, because the songs only worked when they came from a real place. Finally, exhausted and defeated, Throcknar stopped. Perhaps we are approaching this incorrectly. Perhaps the frequency cannot be extracted. Perhaps we need to keep the humans intact and simply force them to broadcast it when needed. "You mean slavery?" Junho said. "You want to make my entire species into living weapons." "We want to win the war," Throcknar said. "Your species is an evolutionary accident that happens to be useful. You should be honored to serve a greater purpose." That was when the alarms started blaring. Explosions rocked the facility. Emergency lights flashed red. "We're under attack!" someone shouted. Throcknar grabbed a weapon and ran toward the command center. In the chaos, Junho was forgotten, still strapped to the table. He pulled against the restraints, but they would not break. He was going to die here, alone, in an alien facility, never seeing Hana again. Then Commander Taeyon appeared. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, her crystal armor splattered with dark Drakzul blood. "Kang Junho?" she said. "Yes, that's me. Please, get me out of here." She cut his restraints with an energy blade. "Can you walk?" "I think so." His legs were weak, but he forced himself up. "Why are you here? Who sent you?" "The Empress herself. She seems to think you are important." They ran through the facility. Taeyon moved like a warrior, clearing corners and taking down Drakzul guards. Junho followed, stumbling, barely keeping up. They made it to the hangar where the Empress's ship was waiting. But just before they reached the ship, a Drakzul soldier appeared from cover and fired. The energy blast hit Taeyon square in the chest. Her crystal armor shattered. She fell. "No!" Junho dropped beside her. The Empress was shouting orders, her team laying down covering fire. But Junho only saw Taeyon. Her crystal body was cracking, spreading out from the blast wound. She was dying. "Leave me!" Taeyon gasped. "Get to the ship." "I'm not leaving you," Junho said. He knew what was happening. The same thing that had almost killed those babies. Extreme trauma causing crystal fractures. She needed calm. She needed peace. He held her hand and started singing. Not because anyone told him to, not because it was strategic, but because he could not watch someone die alone and scared without trying to comfort them. He sang Half Moon, his voice rough from days of abuse. Then Arirang, then just wordless melody, pouring everything he had into it. Willing her to live, willing her to feel what he felt, that she mattered, that she was worth saving, and impossibly, miraculously, Taeyon's crystals stopped cracking. The fractures slowed, then reversed. The fatal wound began to close. Not completely, but enough. Enough for her to breathe. Enough for her to survive. The Empress's team pulled them both into the ship. They launched, Drakzul fighters pursuing them. But they made it out. They jumped to faster-than-light speeds and left the moon base behind. In the ship's medical bay, Empress Livera watched Junho sitting beside Taeyon's recovery pod. He was still holding her hand, still humming quietly. She finally understood. It was not just the frequency, it was what made the frequency work. Genuine compassion, real caring. Humans did not produce the compassion resonance as a biological function. They produced it because they genuinely felt it. "We are the ones who are less evolved," she whispered to herself. "Not them." But now there was a bigger problem. The Drak-Zul had Junho's biodata. They knew about the frequency. And if they could not force humans to produce it, they would simply eliminate humanity to prevent their enemies from using it. The race to protect or exploit humanity had begun. And Earth had no idea what was coming. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Within 48 hours, every major government knew about humanity's ability to produce the compassion resonance. The Galactic Coalition erupted into chaos. Junho sat in a luxurious room in the Imperial Palace, watching it all unfold on the news feeds. It felt like a nightmare. He kept expecting to wake up back in his tiny quarters on the station, late for his janitorial shift. But this was real. This was happening. Earth's defense grid is outdated by 300 years, the news analyst was saying. If the Drak-Zul decide to invade, humanity would fall within weeks. Another analyst interrupted. But should we protect them? Humans have hidden this ability from the Coalition. Perhaps they plan to use it as a weapon themselves. "We didn't hide anything!" Junho shouted at the screen. "I didn't even know I was doing anything special!" Empress Livera entered the room. "The Coalition Council has called an emergency session. You have been summoned to testify." Junho felt sick. "Me? I'm nobody. I clean floors." "You are the first human most of the galaxy knows by name," Livera said gently. "Whether you want it or not, you represent your species now. I can't do this. I need to contact Hana. I need to make sure she's safe. Your daughter and mother are being evacuated to this station as we speak. They will be under my personal protection." Junho wanted to feel relieved, but he only felt more afraid. If Hana was being evacuated, that meant Earth was in real danger. This was his fault. He had sung to 2 babies, and now his whole species was at risk. 2 days later, Junho stood before the Galactic Coalition Council. The chamber was massive, with representatives from 200 species watching him. He wore clean clothes now instead of his janitor uniform, but he still felt like he did not belong there. The council speaker, a tall being made of flowing liquid metal, addressed him. "Kang Junho of Earth, you have been brought here to explain humanity's possession of the compassion resonance. Why was this ability kept secret from the Coalition?" "It wasn't secret," Junho said. His voice echoed in the huge chamber. "We didn't know. I just sang songs my grandmother taught me, that's all." "Demonstrate," demanded one of the council members, an insectoid species called the Kresh. "Prove this ability is real." Junho looked at them all staring at him, demanding, expecting, treating him like a performing animal. He thought about Hana, about Sora, about every human working in the shadows of this galaxy, never respected, never valued. "No," he said quietly. The chamber exploded with angry buzzing and clicking and roaring from a dozen different species. "You dare refuse the council?" the speaker said. "I'm not your tool," Junho said louder. "None of us are. You want to know what makes humans special? It's not some frequency. It's that we choose to care even when it costs us. I didn't sing to those babies because of biology. I sang because they were scared, and I knew what that felt like. I sang because it was the right thing to do, not because it was strategic or useful or expected." "This is outrageous," a Drak-Zul representative said. "This inferior species refuses to cooperate and expects protection? They should be classified as a galactic resource and harvested accordingly." "We're people," Junho shouted. "We have families. We have children. We have lives that matter. Just because you evolved past caring doesn't mean we're less evolved. Maybe it means you are." The chamber went silent. Several representatives looked shocked. Others looked angry. Empress Livera, sitting in the Velsharan section, had a small smile on her crystal face. But before anyone could respond, alarms blared. A massive hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Drak-Zul war fleets surrounding Earth, hundreds of ships. The Drakzul representative stood. The Coalition has 24 hours to hand over all humans for protective custody and scientific study. If you refuse, we will be forced to take them. The people of Earth will not be harmed if they comply. But we cannot allow this ability to fall into enemy hands. You're insane, Junho whispered. There are 8 billion people on Earth. Then we will need many ships, the Drakzul said simply. The council descended into chaos. Species took sides. Some argued for protecting humanity. Others said sacrificing one species to avoid galactic war was logical. Still, others wanted to study humans themselves before deciding. Junho could not breathe. He had caused this. His singing had made his species targets. Billions of people were in danger because he tried to help 2 crying babies. The session was adjourned with no decision. Junho was escorted back to the Imperial Palace. He walked like a dead man, not seeing anything around him. When he got to his rooms, he found Hana and his mother waiting for him. "Appa!" Hana ran to him. Junho picked her up and held her tight, tears streaming down his face. His mother looked old and frightened. "Junho-ya, what is happening? They evacuated us so quickly. The soldiers said Earth might be attacked." "I'm so sorry, Iyama," Junho said. "This is all my fault." That night, after Hana fell asleep, Junho sat alone on the balcony. He looked up at the stars and wondered which one was Earth. He thought about all the people there who had no idea their lives had been upended because one janitor had a kind heart. He made a decision. He activated a communication device and began recording a message. "To every human who can hear this, my name is Kang Junho. Because of me, you're all in danger. The aliens want to use us because we can feel things they can't, because we care about each other. They call it the compassion resonance, but really it's just being human." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "They want us to be weapons of peace, tools to end their wars. But we're more than that. We're fathers and mothers, daughters and sons. We feel, we choose, we love. That's not a weapon. That's who we are. And if the galaxy can't accept us as equals, can't respect us as people, then maybe we don't belong out here among the stars." He took a breath. "I'm going to turn myself over to the Drakzul. I'll teach them everything they want to know about the compassion resonance. In exchange, they'll leave Earth alone. It's the only way." He finished the recording and prepared to broadcast it. But before he could, the door opened. Empress Livera stood there with Commander Teon, who was still recovering but insisted on standing guard. "Don't," Livera said. "I have to. It's the only way to save my people." "It's not. And it won't work. The Drakzul will take you, study you, probably kill you when they're done, and then invade Earth anyway. You're not thinking clearly." "Then what do I do?" Junho's voice broke. "How do I fix this?" Livera sat beside him. "There is an old law, almost forgotten. The right of grand convocation. Any species can demand it when facing extinction. All coalition members must attend. The species in question can present their case through cultural exchange. If they prove their value as equals, they must be granted full sovereignty and protection." "Cultural exchange? Like what? Singing?" "Exactly like singing," Livera said. "You would perform before the entire assembled galaxy, not as a curiosity or a tool, but as an equal. Show them what humanity truly is. Show them why you deserve respect. And if I fail, then humanity is declared a developmental species and placed under Drakzul administration. They would control your entire civilization." Junho looked at his daughter sleeping inside, then at his mother, then at the stars. 8 billion lives, the future of his entire species. All depending on whether he could sing well enough to change minds that had already decided humans were worthless. "How long do I have to prepare?" 3 days, Livera said. "The convocation will be held on Velshara Prime, my home world." Representatives from every coalition species will attend. You'll perform in the Grand Amphitheater. It holds 100,000 beings. Junho laughed, but it was bitter. I'm a janitor. I sing to my daughter at bedtime. How am I supposed to convince the galaxy we're worth saving? By being exactly who you are, Livera said. That's what frightens them, you know? Not that humans can produce some frequency, that you choose to care, that you love, that you sacrifice. These are things most species evolved past millennia ago because they were inefficient. But maybe efficiency isn't everything. Maybe there's another kind of strength. After she left, Junho sat on the balcony until dawn. He thought about Sora and how she used to tell him his voice was terrible, but she loved hearing him sing anyway. He thought about his grandmother teaching him songs in her tiny village during the war, preserving something beautiful when everything was falling apart. He thought about every human who ever sang to a child, or hummed while working, or whistled while walking home. Maybe Livera was right. Maybe being human was enough. In 3 days, he would find out if the galaxy agreed. The Grand Amphitheater on Velshara Prime was the most beautiful and terrifying thing Junho had ever seen. It was carved from a single massive crystal that grew from the planet's core. 100,000 seats spiraled up toward the sky. And every single seat was filled with beings who would decide if humanity deserved to survive. Junho stood backstage with Hana holding his hand. His mother sat nearby, praying quietly. With them was Park Ji-woo, a human woman who worked in the Imperial Archives. Empress Livera had assigned her to help Junho prepare. She had been trying for years to make the coalition understand human culture, always dismissed as primitive nonsense. Now everything depended on it. You don't have to do this alone, Ji-woo said. I can perform with you. We can bring other humans to demonstrate diversity. No, Junho said. This started with me. It should end with me too. He looked at Hana. But I want my daughter there. Is that okay, sweet girl? Hana nodded, trying to be brave even though her eyes were wet with tears. I'll be brave like Appa. Through the stage entrance, they could see the amphitheater filling up. Every species in the coalition had sent representatives. The Drak-Zul Military Council sat in one section, their armored forms dark and imposing. The Velsharan occupied another section, their crystals glowing softly. Hundreds of other species filled the rest. Some Junho recognized. Most he had never seen before. How does this work? Junho asked. The Drak-Zul will present their argument first, Ji-woo explained. They'll claim humans are resources, not people. Then you respond. If the majority of council votes in your favor, Earth gets full sovereignty and protected status. If not, she did not finish. She did not have to. A tone rang through the amphitheater. It was starting. The Drak-Zul Supreme Commander took the stage. He was massive, his multiple eyes scanning the crowd with cold calculation. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the crystal chamber. Esteemed council members, we face a simple question today. Are humans people or resources? Let us examine the evidence. Humans possess the compassion resonance, a frequency thought extinct. This makes them valuable, but value does not equal sentience. A crystal that glows has value. A metal that conducts electricity has value. Humans produce a useful biological function. This does not make them our equals. The commander continued, his words cutting. Humanity has contributed nothing to galactic civilization. They perform manual labor because they are unfit for complex tasks. Their technology is primitive. Their understanding of the universe is limited. They fight wars among themselves over trivial differences. They damage their own planet through ignorance. By every measurable standard, they are inferior. Junho felt each word like a physical blow, but the worst part was that some of it was true. Humanity was behind. Primitive compared to species that traveled between stars. How could he argue against facts? The compassion resonance is wasted on humanity, the commander said. They produce it accidentally without understanding or control. Under Drak-Zul administration, we will study this ability properly. We will use it to finally end the wars that have plagued the galaxy for millennia. Humans will be housed, fed, protected. They will serve a greater purpose than they ever could on their own. This is not cruelty. This is efficiency. This is progress. The commander sat down. The amphitheater was silent. Many species nodded in agreement. The argument was logical, practical. By the standards of galactic civilization, it made sense. Then it was Junho's turn. He walked onto the crystalline stage, Hana beside him holding his hand. They looked so small in that massive space. One man and one child against the entire galaxy. Junho looked up at the 100,000 faces watching him. He felt his throat close up with fear. What could he possibly say? He was a janitor, a single father, nobody important. But then he looked down at Hana and remembered why he was there. Not to prove humanity was advanced or useful or efficient. Just to prove they were human. That had to be enough. "I'm not good at speeches," Junho began. His voice shook, but the crystal amplified it, carrying it to every seat. "I don't know the right words to convince you. I'm just a dad who works hard to take care of his daughter. But the commander said humans have contributed nothing to your galaxy, and I think that's because you never asked us to contribute anything except our labor. You never looked at us long enough to see what we had to offer." He paused, gathering courage. "You want to know about the compassion resonance? I'll tell you where it comes from. My grandmother taught me songs when I was a boy in Korea, not because they were useful or efficient. She taught me because her mother taught her, and her mother before that, going back hundreds of years. During wars, during famines, during times when everything was falling apart, my ancestors sang. Not because it changed anything, but because it reminded them they were still human. Still capable of beauty, even in darkness." Junho's voice grew stronger. "I met my wife Sora when we were both struggling to survive. I sang to her on our wedding day, a silly old song that made her laugh. When Hana was born, I sang to her every night, Half Moon, Arirang, songs about the moon and mountains and home. When Sora died, I sang at her funeral even though I could barely breathe. I sang because it was the only thing that made sense when nothing else did." He knelt down beside Hana. 3 years ago, I left my daughter so I could work on your station and send money home. Do you know what that feels like? To choose between being poor together or being apart so she could eat? Every week I call her. Every week she asks me to sing. And every week I sing Half Moon because it connects us across space. Because it reminds us we're family even when we're separated. Tears ran down Junho's face now. "You say we produce the compassion resonance accidentally. You're wrong. We produce it on purpose, every single day. When a mother sings to calm a crying baby. When friends sing together to celebrate. When a widow sings at a funeral to honor the dead. When a father sings to a daughter he misses more than breathing. We don't do it because it's efficient. We do it because we care. Because we love. Because we choose to feel even when feeling hurts." He stood facing the assembled galaxy. "The commander is right that we're primitive. Our technology is nothing compared to yours. Our understanding of the universe is limited. We fight stupid wars and make terrible mistakes. But you know what? So did you, once. Every species in this chamber was primitive once. Every species made mistakes. The difference is, you evolved past caring. You chose efficiency over emotion, logic over love. And maybe that made you stronger. Maybe that let you build empires and travel the stars. But somewhere along the way, you forgot what it means to be alive." The amphitheater was completely silent now. Every being watched, transfixed. "You want me to prove the compassion resonance is real? Fine. I'll sing for you. But not because you commanded it. Not because I'm performing. I'm singing because that's what humans do. We sing when we're happy. We sing when we're sad. We sing to remember and to hope and to connect. That's who we are. Junho turned to Hana. Ready, sweet girl? She nodded, wiping her eyes. And then Junho began to sing. Not the songs he had practiced, not formal or perfect. He sang Half Moon, the lullaby his grandmother taught him, the song he sang to Sora, the song he sang to Hana every night they were apart. His voice was rough and imperfect and full of every emotion he had been holding back: love, grief, hope, fear, longing. Hana joined him, her small voice blending with his. They were not professional performers. They were just a father and daughter, singing together like they had done 1,000 times before. Like millions of human families did every day, all across Earth, never knowing it was special. The compassion resonance flooded the amphitheater. But it was more than just a frequency now. It carried everything Junho felt. Every memory, every loss, every moment of love that made life worth living. Species that had never cried felt tears for the first time. Beings that had evolved past emotion felt their ancient hearts awakening. The Drak-Zul Supreme Commander sat frozen, experiencing something his species had not felt in 1,000,000 years. Parental love, the irrational, inefficient, absolutely essential feeling of caring for someone more than yourself. In the Velsharan section, Empress Livera wept openly. All around her, crystalline beings were changing colors in ways they never had before, their bodies expressing emotions they had no words for. When the song ended, Junho held Hana close. They stood together in the silence, waiting. A Velsharan elder stood, their voice shaking. I am 400 years old. I have never felt what I felt just now. I have never understood why the ancient texts spoke of love as the most powerful force. Now I do. This child, this being we would have classified as less than us, has shown us what we lost. Vote to protect humanity. Vote to preserve what we cannot create ourselves. One by one, representatives stood. Not all of them. The vote would not be unanimous. But enough stood. Enough had been changed. The final tally came. 63% in favor of granting Earth full sovereignty and protected status. Humanity would be recognized as equals. The Drak-Zul Supreme Commander stood and left without a word. His fleet withdrew from Earth orbit. The coalition had spoken. 6 months passed. Junho returned to Earth with Hana and his mother, but everything was different now. Humanity's status had changed. They were no longer just labor. They were cultural ambassadors, teachers, mediators. The galaxy wanted to understand what it had lost. Junho was offered dozens of important positions. Ambassador to Velshara Prime, cultural liaison for the coalition, professor of human studies. He turned them all down. Instead, he became a teacher, working with Jiwoo to create the first human cultural center. They taught aliens about Earth's art, music, and stories. They helped humans understand they had something valuable to offer beyond their labor. On a cool evening in Seoul, Junho stood in his small apartment, the one he had dreamed about during long nights on the station. Hana was asleep in her room. His mother was visiting neighbors. The city lights glowed through the window. His communication device chimed. It was Empress Livera, calling from Velshara Prime. "How are you adjusting to being famous?" she asked, her crystal face smiling. "I hate it," Junho said honestly. "People recognize me on the street. They want me to sing for them all the time. I'm still just a dad who wants to live quietly with his daughter." "You changed the galaxy," Livera said. "That comes with attention." "I didn't change anything. I just showed people who we've always been." Livera was quiet for a moment. "I wanted to tell you. The twins, the ones you sang to that first night, they ask about you constantly. They call you Uncle Junho. They are learning Korean so they can sing your songs." Junho smiled. Tell them I said hello, and that I'll visit soon." After the call ended, Junho walked to Hana's room. She had kicked off her blankets in her sleep, like always. He covered her gently, brushing hair from her face. She stirred, eyes opening just a little. "Appa? Sing Half Moon?" "Always, sweet girl." He sat beside her bed and sang softly, the same song his grandmother taught him, the same song that had changed everything. But in this moment, it was not about galaxies or politics or proving humanity's worth. It was just a father singing to his daughter, sharing something precious between them. Somewhere across the stars, on hundreds of different worlds, other humans were doing the same, singing to their children, humming while they worked, whistling while they walked home. Not because they had to, not because it was useful, but because they were human, and being human meant choosing to create beauty even in darkness, choosing to care even when it cost everything, choosing to love even when the universe seemed cold and empty. The galaxy was learning what humans had always known, that efficiency and logic and power were not enough, that sometimes the most important things were the ones that could not be measured or quantified or controlled, that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was just a simple song, sung by an ordinary person for someone they loved, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough to change the stars.